Hi guys, how you doing? It's John Goyak, the master game changer at Reframe Your Game. I've been gone a while, been taking care of a lot of things, and as I posted on Facebook, got to actually officiate my son's wedding, and really exciting times, and just a blessed event. But I'm back here, back in the saddle, back to help you all reframe your game. And today, I'd like to do a video kind of leading up to a series of launches we're going to do for the elements, the core elements of Reframe Your Game. We're going to continue these little microbursts because there's, I think, some valuable content and strategies contained in these, and then we're going to show how those fit in the overall process of reframing your game, how you get from where you are to where you need to be, the steps you take, and how we can coach you to get you along to the promised land. So with that, the topic for today is how do you know? You're reframing your game, right? But how do you know what ground truth is? How do you know what the real truth is? How do you know what the facts are and what the facts mean? And that's really critically important because you're making career decisions on how the way you're going to shift your game, what things you're going to go invest in. You're going to invest your time and your money in to go and change to be better at what you're doing. And so, how do you know what's going on? How do you really do that? And underlying all those is the fundamental principle that you get to decide who you work for. So there's two things really going on here. One is how do you know, and then how you decide who you're going to work for. So one question is, last time you interviewed for a job, and I can't remember the last time I did that personally, but happens when you get gray hair, right? But when you go to interview for a job, you're trying to look good and give all the right answers and make them feel good. But you ought to be sizing that person up because you're going to be working with them, and they're going to be deciding on your future here for at least the near term. And so it'd be kind of important that you understand where they are, what drives them as well. So an interview is really a two-way thing. Now, some people, interviewers, might be uncomfortable with that. What's that tell you? What does that fact tell you? That they're used to this one way, my way, kind of highway thing, perhaps, and you need to explore and understand where they are, and you do that in the conduct of your interview. But let's get back to the topic. How do you know? There are facts out there, right? Things happen. And it's really critical to strip those things of their emotion and simply observe what they are, define what just happened. And when you do that, you take away all the emotion, take away all the hand-wringing and second-guessing, all this sort of thing. This is what happened. Now you got some choices, how you look at those and how you interpret those and how you filter those, how you operate on those facts. And let me give you some examples of some ways people might do that. Let's say I was talking to a fellow, coaching fellow a few weeks ago, and he works for a boss who is really just driven by numbers. That's all he cares about is numbers. Okay. He says, well, I've taken in these proposals. I've laid out these deals, and God, they're really good long-term for the company. They really give us some new entrees and some new customers and the like. He wouldn't have anything of it. He says, doesn't do this, doesn't do that. So if you don't make the hurdle, you don't make my hurdle, it was the fact that came back to him, then, it's not going to do it. So that's the fact, and that's a pretty blatant fact. Now, you can go off, and you look at that and determine how you want to view that fact. And you say, okay, well, the guy's a jerk. Well, that doesn't do you any good, although it may be true. What good does that interpretation of that fact do you? Then you can operate on data. It's another layer of looking at the facts. The fact is, well, I have to. Maybe I can make the deal sweeter. Maybe I can change the numbers. Maybe I can, jigger the numbers or whatever and make it a little more attractive. That's up to you, but I would argue that that's a very minor gain, if any, and it's probably going to crash and burn. Another way to look at it is to really understand what the game is and what game is being played, and if you want to play that game. And if you don't, then it's time to reframe your game. If he's never going to move off of that model, off of that paradigm, are you ever going to be happy? Are you ever going to achieve what you want? Do you even know what you want? But let's set that aside for a minute. Let's say you really do know what you want. I would ask you to consider that gosh, if that's the way the game is being played here with this fellow, then maybe I don't want to be here anymore. Now, there's all sorts of things that come into that, all sorts of emotions. Oh my God, I'm going to have a job, blah, 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 blah. You got to take some time because this is a long-term decision. You're going to make a decision. The decision you make today is going to pilot or actually lay out the pathway for how you're going to reframe your game, who you are going to grow into, become, so you can be the guy who gets what you want influences people, changes other people's game, and makes things wildly successful. Because that's what the game is about, I would argue. If you're just there for a paycheck, then that's another story. But I would again argue that in operating in that sort of environment, a one-dimensional kind of environment like that, you're never ever going to achieve any kind of quality of life. You're going to do a job. And we argue all the time, there's a difference between a job and a mission. A job is punching a time clock. A job is just going through the rote numbers. A mission involves your heart, involves your passion, involves your brain, involves everything you can bring to the party for success. And that's what we're about here at Reframe Your Game. So you have a choice. And you can decide, well, okay, now you can go back and test it a couple times. So it's important. I understand you're making a real serious choice about what you might do within a corporation or within a company. So now there's some other options you have. If you find that this just ain't going to work, then you have some choices. One is look around. What other organizations in your company seem to exhibit the characteristics that you like, that really define or really promote you towards where you want to be, that are friendly, if you will. And I don't mean, sucking up to you, but they really are, they're more open to the kinds of imaginative or different kinds of strategies or approaches you might want to bring to the party. Because really, everybody under the bubble is about making that company go. Okay? Now, there's all sorts of people who declare all sorts of islands and companies, and we all know that sort of thing. But I think as an internal corporate entrepreneur, which I'm going to argue that we all are, you want to understand how you can best lead, how you can best affect the outcomes, how you can best affect the bottom line, and how you can grow your team, grow your people to achieve even greater results again and again and again and again, and keep ratcheting it up. Because that's what reframing and changing your game is all about. So take a look around. What's working in other organizations? Maybe it's time to move. Maybe it's not the right company. We don't want to go there quite yet. So I would argue that there's some internal coaching techniques or telltales you can get just by looking around what works, what doesn't. Who operates in a way that gets the results, the kind of results that you're looking for. I don't mean you like the person. That's interesting, but not really all that relevant. But the really point is this method of operation is one that secures the kinds of results that I must have, because that's who I've defined who I am. So I ask you to think about it that way. And so some of the other strategies you might want to make is ones that I used to use. I would find a couple of compadres and create kind of a brainstorming cell, if you will. I don't mean a bitch cell. I mean a brainstorming cell that addresses or acts upon various challenges or number challenges or marketing challenges or whatever, and start to create value. Once you create that sort of buzz, then maybe you overwhelm or override or can show and demonstrate increased value of the way that you're looking at the world and the opportunities that you bring to the company. That does a couple of things. That shows that you've got juice, shows you've got game. It shows you're not willing to just kind of go through the motions and that you're really interested. That's kind of important, and that's kind of attractive. It might be not attractive to your specific boss, perhaps, but you're doing this in your lunch hour, so whatever, right? But it might be attractive to somebody else in the organization who says, I'm trying to spin up an organization that just rolls out killers, man, and we do amazing things, and those guys seem to have it down, have it together. You always don't have to just go through the motions. I've talked to people so many times who said, well, I need this job, man, and I understand that. But do you need that job to the detriment of your own well-being, to your own mental, physical, psychological, family well-being? Because look, if you're just punching a time card, you hate what's going on, and you go home at night, I'm sure you don't carry your job home with you, right? Because none of us do, right? You go home, you kick the cat, you yell at the kids, things are great with the wife, and it's kind of game over, and you do it every day in and out. I'm not saying everybody does that. You all might have dream jobs. What I'm arguing is that as you move through reframing your game, constantly moving to where you want to be, because we're going to constantly ratchet up our wants and our demands on ourselves and our demands about results. As we do that, we're going to constantly come into contact with folks who might not line up with us specifically. And we'll talk a bit more in detail about how we work their world and how we work to change their worldview. But for right now, we're working on you, because you're the one who has to make the call. And so many people, and I've worked with so many teams who they've God bless them, they're working their butts off, and they are not appreciated. They're not thinking about the current situation in any way, but I got to get this done. And when you go down and in like that, you tend to lose perspective about what it all means. So step back occasionally. Step back from what you're doing and say, how's this working? And never lose sight of where you're headed. Keep your eye on the prize, right? And so there's another set of strategies. Is there's some opportunities within corporations to really show your stuff, get exposure, and test some ideas and test some new strategies. And one, which I grew up in, and it can be a very hellacious living, but it can also expose you to every aspect of your company, and every executive, every process, every whatever, is working on new business proposals or marketing proposals. And that can be thankless, long-hour work, and you eat a lot of pizza and things like that. But I also tell you, you get a chance to really show your stuff. You get a chance to really explore. You get a chance to stretch. And the beauty of it is it's usually a fairly constrained timeline, 15, 30, 45 days, whatever. And so it has an end. That's a good thing, right? But it also is compresses everything. So you get a very rapid results. You get a very rapid testing, if you will, of the things you're looking at, things you're doing. And you can test what the resolve of the company or the resistance is or the acceptability levels are in the company to be able to, so you can make some decisions about how you want to play. Because look, you're not just bringing a body, parking in a spot out front and coming to work. You're bringing a mind, you're bringing creativity, you're bringing passion. And we often forget that. And that's unfortunate because none of us, I think, grew up, saying we want to just be dullards or something like that. I'm not saying that you are, but we never said we want to be less than we could possibly be. And so these strategies are ways for us to really understand the frame we're playing in, and understand how and what we have to reframe to be able to achieve the kind of results that we must have. Because at the end of the day, you want to be fulfilled. You want to be happy. You want to be making money. At the end of the day, you want to be making money. This is not charity work. You want to be able to get a sense that you are in control of what your space around you, not only from the decisions, but the money and the schedule and everything else. So you need to, as you're motoring through time here, you need to decide what's important to you. You need to decide how you go do that, what tools you are going to be, and over that time you are building your persona. And I argue build your persona within that company, but also with an eye towards your persona to the world. What I mean by that, maybe you're not going to work for this company for the rest of your life. These days, people really are. My father worked for Capitol Records for 34 years. People don't do that anymore. People are jumping because technology is jumping. It's a fast-paced business. So but reframe your game is about how do I get the rapid results I need within the frame that I must have and continue to test and ratchet that frame up as I move forward. Within the company, great. If I'm going to be CEO, awesome. If that's what you want, great. Let's go for it. If you want to use that time to be able to build your tool set and then test whether that's of value to the company or not. Because you both get to decide, but it'd be better if you decided. And then you say, okay, well, this is what I want to go do. And, people say, well, I floated my resume. I got my resume floating around to 30 different companies and yada, 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 yada. That's cool. There are a billion resumes out there. But I would suggest let's work on us first. And then we can make a powerful resume, even if we have to make a resume. Because you want to walk in, loaded for bear, totally fully armed up, and having built a legacy set of traits or talents and history within a company that shows you have the kind of game to be able to influence either the next organization up in your company or the next company you go work for. So kind of focusing on the internal corporate kind of opportunities right now. We've talked about entrepreneurs off and on through this, and there's a lot of the same dynamic works, by the way, if you're an entrepreneur. It's just in smaller and more rapidly achieved sorts of goals. But again, you need to understand you get to decide who your clients are. You get to decide who you want to work with on your team. You get to decide what you will and won't stand for. You get to draw some heavy lines. And so the more centered you are, the more certain you are about what kind of game you bring and where you want to go, and your commitment on the steps it takes to get there, the better you're going to be. And so my challenge to myself to help all of you is to condense or distill 34 years in under many presidencies, under many shifting business environments, etc., where I've been successful in all of them. Had a lot of failures too, So you learn from those, but very successful across 34 years of business. And what I'm doing is distilling down into, out of those 34 years, things that will help you instantly. So you don't want to beat your head against the wall the way I did. There's no, you just get gray hair or less hair, and that's not very much fun. But it is important to, and that's why I want to try to condense this into a format and into a structure and strategy that can help you get the kind of results you want. And I'm committed to working with you personally to help you develop that, test it, understand it, and implement it, because why wouldn't you do that? And we all know that that a coach or a mentor is very important. And I can truthfully say I got my first mentor in my career when I was 62 years old. And I want to tell you, my friends, it makes a hell of a difference. So there are mentors out there. I'm happy to mentor you, and I'm happy to keep doing these to just give you ideas to help you think about things differently a little bit differently every day. Because when you do that, you start to change your course. We're all familiar with the analogy that a plane that's flying from LA to Hawaii is on course less than 1% of the time, because it's constantly making adjustments for winds, for the curvature of the earth, and everything else. It's not a straight line. Your career path, or where you want to do for you to achieve the results you want, is not a straight line. So the question becomes, when do I make the right moves at the right time? How do I decide what I really want to focus on and to make me successful? How do I test that? How to decide that? And again, you're not always going to be right. That's part of growing. That's part of learning. So you have to have some measurements. I'm going to try this, and this is the measures of success. And I want to do a hot wash after every time I do that. I want to live in the present. I want to live with severe presence. I want to live in consciousness and not just go through the day. Because what's the point? There's 8 hours or 10 hours or however 24 hours in a day, depending on how you work. Okay, but every one of those hours can count a little, or they can count a ton. That's up to you. So if you live with passion and presence and in the moment and with a purpose, I will guarantee you will knock it out of the park every time. And you will achieve the amazing results quickly that you're really chasing. So with that, John Goyak, game changer at Reframe Your Game. Have a blessed day. Take care.